Contrology, the Pilates method, the method, the work. However you want to describe it, it is the brainchild of German creator and inventor Joe Pilates. Hello everyone, I'm Darian Gold. Thanks so much for joining us on All Things Pilates. We are so lucky to have with us today Lolita San Miguel. Known in the Pilates community as one of our Pilates elders, Lolita has been practicing the Pilates method for 62 years and teaching for over 54. There is so much to Lolita's story, from an illustrious ballet career, meeting and learning from Jospeh Pilates, to her own Pilates programs that she imparts to students across the globe. So let's get to know Lolita a little bit more. Hello, Lolita. Great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you, Darren. A pleasure to be with you.
Lolita, it's unbelievable, but you've been practicing the Pilates method for 62 years and teaching for more than 54. I want to know what keeps you going.
Well, I think the fact that I love what I do. I started dancing at the age of 7 and became a professional dancer and then a Pilates teacher. And besides, it keeps me busy and I like being busy. And I just celebrated my 87th birthday.
Fantastic.
And I am feeling good, so why not keep going?
Sounds good to me. That's a great reason.
I've never understood how people can be happy when they say they're retired. When they say that to me, I go, oh, what a shame.
Yes, what a blessing to have this work in our lives, huh?
Yes. When we love it, we are so blessed.
Speaking of the Pilates method, I would like to know your thoughts about how the Pilates method continues to evolve. Because, there is the classical approach and then the contemporary approach. And maybe for you, there is no other approach than his work.
Well, no, I don't believe I believe that his work has evolved, like you just said. And my motto is preserve and evolve. I think that you need to preserve the treasure that he left us. But that doesn't mean it ends there, right? And you can keep evolving and discovering more and making his work perhaps a little more dynamic or a little more varied, because I would find it very boring in today's world, especially, to do the same movements time and time and time again in the same order, which was true. When I was going to Joe's, people basically did what was on the wall in the pictures, and they did the same thing every time they came. And that, to me, is not the best way to learn anything.
What do you think he would say if he was here?
I think he'd love it. He was very adventuresome and very creative. We all know that. He was forever tweaking his own apparatuses, which he had just made, and all of a sudden he said, well, I think I'll make a bigger one for so-and-so, or a smaller one, or I don't like the way this works, so I'll add that. So he was he was not set in stone as a human being. He certainly was very alive and diversified.
Do you think, though, that his original work needs to be preserved?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we need to preserve his original work and I think that's what we all love, is basically his original work. And there's no doubt about it. He was a genius. And to me, when you people say classical, I laugh in their face because classical to me means 15th century ballet, right? And since I knew him while he was alive and I'm still here, I don't see what's classical about it.
Oh, that's interesting.
When I mentioned it to Kathy and Ron Fletcher, we all had a very good laugh.
That is interesting. Depends on who you're speaking to, right?
Right. And I understand that classical has come to mean trained by Romana. But that doesn't mean that it could not, why should be trained by Corolla is not classical, or trained by a gentry is not classical. So it's nonsense.
Speaking of Corolla, according to your bio on your website, after you sustained a dance injury, your doctor didn't recommend surgery, but instead told you to strengthen the muscles around your knee and suggested you go to Corolla Trier's studio. Am I saying her last name right? Trier?
Trier. Yes, Trier. You are saying correctly.
What was that experience like, and how did she help you exactly?
Well, I had never heard of her, and no one I knew or that I was aware knew her or knew the method. And of course, it was called contrology, but he just said, go to this lady and she can help you with these exercises. They're very good for dancers. I went, and from the moment I opened the door, I entered this room, and many of my colleagues were already there, like Arthur Mitchell, whom I had gone to school with.
Dance Theater of Harlem.
And Alvin Ailey was there. Allegra Kent was there. And so in that sense, I felt at home. I felt it wasn't a strange world. And then I looked at the apparatuses, and they were funny looking to me. I mean, strange looking. Not funny, but awesome looking. I wouldn't know.
You weren't intimidated?
Well, I wasn't intimidated. I thought, oh, I've never been one to like the treadmill or the bicycle or the weight lifts or the things like that. So I said, I'm not sure that I'm going to like these. And from the moment that but I was very upset. I needed help. I mean, I wasn't able to work. I was on leave. And I started, and from the moment I started, it was love at first sight. I truly, truly fell in love with it. And I was back to dancing. I was back in the company. I was at the Metropolitan Opera Ballet then. And I was back in the company within a month, which is amazing. Then I kept going to Corolla, and Corolla took excellent care of me. She really dedicated herself to me when I was there. I went as a client for 7 years after that. And that's where I worked with Kathy Grant. Corolla had two assistants at the time. They were Romana Krisanovska and Kathy. Romana went in the morning and Kathy went in the afternoon when was best for me to go. So I became friendlier with Kathy, but it was always Corolla. And then one day, Corolla said to me, "You're speaking now about retiring from the Met." I had been already at the Met for 10 years. So I said, "Yes, I'm thinking of teaching, and I was thinking of teaching ballet, but I had never, ever taken a class myself again once I knew the Pilates method without doing the floor first, mat."
Well, how was your body when you were dancing? You were a principal dancer for the Met? The soloist?
I was a soloist, yes, and that was the highest category at the Met at the time.
You did that for a decade. How was your body holding up? And do you think it would have held up less without Pilates?
Well, the fact is, I have a very good body and for dance, and I had suffered very few injuries. And once I was a dancer that always wanted to know the why of things. Why can you? Some days you have very good balance, some days you don't.
Exactly.
Dance teachers back then, especially the Russians that I was trained with at the School of American Ballet, they didn't explain anything to you. For that matter, neither did Joe. Joe gave you no explanations. He said, if you said the why or how, he'd say, do it, and keep doing it till you got your own answer. But that was to me very frustrating. Carola explained just maybe 2 words more than Joe.
Just 2 words.
Yeah. And but I saw myself how the work contributed to the dance, and that things that I had not understood the why of before now were much clearer. And I thought, gee, I wish I'd known about this before.
Yes.
But I was very grateful, certainly, to be able to return to dancing right away, because that was, by now, was 1959, and I danced at the Met till 1962, or 63, actually. No, what am I saying? Till 1964, I danced at the Met.
Carola was a special lady, wasn't she?
She certainly was. She was very moody. She had many ups and downs. And she was the one that suggested that I become an apprentice to her. And I thought, well, that would be a good idea, to mix with my dance teaching. So I said yes, and she knew about the career transition for dancer program from the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. And I went there and they approved me. And so I went to Carola for 520 hours. And this was not 520 hours of
observing.
Observing. No, I had to teach.
You got in there.
Yes. And the beauty of it was that when I was going, it was Kathy, and Kathy and I became very good friends. And then Kathy helped me a great deal to understand. And since Kathy was a dancer, we spoke the same language when I wanted to know more about the whys. And so we established a beautiful relationship. And when I finished with Carola, I said, I know one thing. I'm not interested in teaching for Carola, which was, I think, what she was thinking when she suggested it.
Yes.
But I said, no, I didn't like her well enough. It's one thing to go and take a class once a week or twice a week for an hour, and another thing to spend 20 hours a week in a studio with somebody. I said, but I'll just integrate it into my ballet. And she said, well, why don't you go to Joe's? And that's the famous me saying, well, Joe, who's Joe? Joe who?
Yeah.
And that was the rest of the story when she told me he was alive and living and had his studio 3 blocks away. And let's go there together and ask him to certify us.
So you did your 520 hours with Carola.
I certainly did.
You wanted to move on, though. You didn't want to stay married to her studio.
No, I didn't want to work for her. You see, while I was there, she was paid to train me. And that's what an apprentice is. She was paid by the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation to train me in another career. I was not paid, but I had that great advantage. So when we went to Joe, Kathy and I, we said we would like to be certified by you. And he said, what's that? He had never heard of certification.
But he'd never seen you before, right? He didn't know.
He didn't know me at all. So Kathy turned to me and she said, Lolita was just certified by Corolla.
Uh-oh.
And yes, he did an axial elongation and turned his head and walked away. And I thought, well, I guess that was the end of that. And then he said, well, what does that mean? So he explained to him that the department would pay him to train us. We would be there to help him. And at that point, he needed help. And he was starting not to feel well at all. So he said, well, go get the papers and come back. And we did. We started January of 1966.
What was that like? What was that like to even be in his presence? Because obviously his energy was going to be quite different from Corolla's.
Well, that was the equivalent of his interview. He didn't ask me anything else after that. I told him I had been a dancer since age 7, that I had been a client of Corolla for 7 years, that I was an apprentice. Then I came in the day that all the papers were ready. I came in. He wasn't in the room. He had 2 assistants, Bob Seed and a lady called Hannah Sakamirda. And I walked in and Clara was there and she sort of pointed to the mat. You know, they didn't really do much mat work at all. There was one mat on the floor and one mat that sat on 14-inch legs, and those were the 2 mats in the room. And so I started to warm up on the mat, and then he walked in and he just kept watching me. He didn't say anything. He just kept watching, and then he motioned to go to the reformer. He didn't say anything. So I got on the reformer and did my thing on reformer.
Did the reformers in his studio feel different than Corolla? Oh.
Oh, no, not to Corolla. Corolla had a reformer that was made by him.
Okay.
Remember, at that time, only one person made equipment, Jospeh Pilates.
Joe and Fred.
And Fred, right. Nobody else made equipment. He had a room where he stored his equipment. He would sometimes sell equipment. He was always working on making apparatus, but he was the only one. So Corolla, what she had was made by Joe. So to transfer to the studio, there was not much difference. I was very apprehensive about the fact that I thought, I hope what Corolla has taught me is what he has taught me, what he teaches, right? But he never, ever said that's wrong or you're not doing that right. One thing only. I noticed when I first started that when it came to stomach massage, she used to put a box behind your back in front of the shoulder pads or in between the shoulder pads at times. And when I went to Joe, I noticed that there was, he didn't use a box for stomach massage. Well, I used to have to bring the box, so it was one less thing to do. So one time, though, I was working out by myself, and I sort of must have gotten into automatic pilot because I placed the box in front. And
oh, no.
Yeah, and I kept doing the footwork. All of a sudden, I look down and I see his feet. I was doing stomach massage, and I looked up at him, and he looked down at me, and he said, "Who taught you that?" And I didn't answer him. Obviously, he knew who taught me that. And he said, "Who taught you that? That woman over there?" And I said, I didn't say. I looked at him and I stood up, picked up my box, took it back to its spot. That was that.
Wow.
But that was about the only time that I remember. And I never made that mistake again.
I'm sure not. Was he moody?
He was, but not as bad as her. He was in the sense that when I was going there and Kathy and I were going there, he was ill. He was in a depressed state. So when he was feeling bad, and I imagine that there was connected with pain because he did have arthritis and you could tell it in his joints. And at the same time, there were days that he must have been feeling better and he was totally making jokes and things. So she could change from 1 minute to the other. And then there were days which were very sad in which he would come and just sit in a chair and stare down at the floor. And he would not say anything or correct anybody or walk around. And then clients would go by and would say, "Joe, are you okay? What's wrong? You're so quiet." And he would say to them, "Well, I don't have much time left," he would say. "And I have not accomplished what I wished with the method." Remember, with contrology, with the method. And
yes.
He said, "I'm 40 years, I'm 50 years ahead of my time."
At least.
And he would say, "And people will someday appreciate it." He never felt that there was anything wrong with the method. He was happy with the method, but he felt that we were just not sensitive enough or aware enough of our bodies or whatever to appreciate the method. He was a wonderful salesman. He tried to sell his equipment and his method to President Kennedy, to Defense Department. He used to sell it at Macy's and at the Education Department. And most of all, he had a dream of having his method installed in hospitals.
Yes.
So therefore, I'm sure you know the Eve Gentry story, that Eve thought she had convinced the doctors that had operated her mastectomy to, explore the method. And they were fascinated by what he was able to do with her. But when they realized that he was not an MD, he was not anything. He had, like Deborah Lesson said, he had no alphabet soup next to his name. Discontinued the contract.
Unbelievable.
That was truly hurtful.
Absolutely.
Because that was one of his dreams.
Well, he got it just a little late for him.
Right.
Not for us.
No, but not enough. I still feel that every hospital should have, and not every hospital does.
And every school.
And of course, and that children, he was very adamant that children needed to be trained at an early age. We're working on it, but it hasn't happened yet. There's still a lot of work to be done, I feel. And I encourage my people. I always say, I've done my share. Now, let's see you do the rest.
Well, let's talk about those two certification programs you have. One is the Pilates Master Mentor Program, and the other is Lolita's Legacy. What are they and how do they differ?
All right. When I first started to teach in groups or to teach more than one person or a group class, because I was the first person to teach mat in New York, I started the Pilates Master Mentor program, which meant they came to me supposedly, and most of them did. And I devised a master program. They had to have 3 years of experience teaching minimum. And I got people who had 20 years of experience. And it was 100, still is 160 hours of personal in which they came. It was back then it was like 5-6 trips they had to make to Florida. And we went through the entire repertoire, because one of the things that I don't like is when people say to me, I'm a Pilates teacher, and then we talk further and I realize that they are a mat teacher or they studied the reformer. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not a Pilates teacher. Pilates teacher means you know all his
The system.
apparatus.
You know the
Right,
system.
and his system has many apparatus. So, and you have worked on them and you know what they are useful for. I have a comprehensive program. So they were supposed to be previously certified comprehensively, and I found out that what they call comprehensive means they taught them 4 exercises.
Okay.
So that usually ran a year and a half or a year and a few months. So afterwards, they started to say to me, you know, we really need a teacher training program for what we used to call the babies. You haven't done Pilates as a client, you like it, you would like to teach it. To have, I had manuals and videos and whatnot, and we need that. And I said, well, look, I don't do computer. This is not my thing.
They have to come to you.
And I said, besides, look, all my friends are doing that. I mean, Brent Anderson, who is one of my mentors, is doing it. Ray Sakowitz, everybody has
A program.
a teacher training program. No, we want yours. So that's what started Lolita's Legacy, which is 7 times they get together, and it is taught only by my disciples. My disciples are those that graduated from the mentor program.
How many?
Huh?
How many do you have of those?
Around 500.
Wow, Lolita.
And they're throughout the world.
That's
which
wonderful.
Is the beauty of it. My disciples, I have disciples, I believe, in almost every country. And they come a big following in Korea and in Japan and in Brazil, the other end. And yes, and now I am selling the legacy business, my legacy business. And it's going to be part of my partial retirement and to my disciples. And
how will that work? If you have 500 disciples, how do you sell the franchise? Is it a franchise then?
No, it is not a franchise. Only those that we have an educator intensive course. And I have selected a very, very small group, and they are educators, disciple educators. We take a training program, they have manuals, and it's very successful.
You've done a lot, Lolita, and even though you say there's so much more to be done, you've really done your share and more.
Thank you. I kept busy.
Absolutely. You wrote a book while you're busy with when did you write this book?
It came out this year uh, around February.
February of 2021, your book is called Enchanted Life.
An Enchanted Life.
And you had time to write that book with all your other goings on.
Well, it took me a long time because since I told you I don't do computer, I had to dictate everything to somebody else or handwrite it, and then they would pass it through. So it took me a long time. And besides, at the time, I was traveling a great deal. And I would stop and then I pick it up when I returned. So it wasn't that I could just sit and work on it like a writer would.
What was your motivation in writing this book?
Well, what was my motivation was that I thought, number one, there are so many stories that I hear. There's a lot of fiction around Joe, and there's a lot of fiction around the Pilates method, number one. Number two, I happen to have a very varied life. And I think it's been enchanting. So I don't know what made me do it. Sometimes I wondered while I was in the midst of it, what made me do this?
What kind of feedback have you had?
Very good feedback. It is on sale at Amazon.
Excellent. So did you self-publish?
Well, yes, Amazon published it, self-published, yes.
Wonderful. Now, in 2009, this is such an incredible story, and I hope my listeners, if they get anything from this interview, this is what you did was so amazing. In 2009, I think it was the first time you went to Jospeh Pilates' birthplace in Mönchengladbach. Is that true? And you were shocked that the townspeople didn't even they never heard of him.
I was hurt. I was really hurt because I had just started the PMMP. And this lady from Dusseldorf called me and said, I'm a single mother with 2 children. I cannot go to Florida. Would you consider coming here if I prepare a group for you? And I said, well, where do you live? And she said, I live in Dusseldorf. And I said, how close are you to Mönchengladbach? She said, 20 minutes by car. I said, I'll go. And you set it up one condition. I said, we celebrate Pilates Day in Mönchengladbach and with a class, with a free class. She said, oh, sure, that would be great. So the day came, we had gotten this King Willem auditorium where Joe had boxed.
Oh, and that's wonderful.
Yes, and it was a nice, huge stage, but then an enormous, like where you would put chairs for in an auditorium. When I walked in, they had their mats out, and there were over 100 people. So I gave.
You were shocked, though. That shocked you also, right?
Yeah, it did, and they looked so ready. So I gave a class for children, and we gave a class for the gentlemen, and then we gave a class for everybody else. And they followed well. I had an interpreter, and at the end of the class, I asked if they would come forward and speak to me. And in the conversation, I expected that he would be a hero in his own hometown. And I realized that they didn't even know who he was. They had come because they had heard of a free class from an American lady who was going to give a free class. And I was shattered because all I had in my mind was the picture of Joe seated on the chair, staring at the floor, saying he had not accomplished what he wanted. And I said, no, I got to do something about this. And so I had my disciples. I was sort of got them excited about the idea, came back to the States and got everybody else excited about. I wanted to place a huge statue in one of the beautiful parks of Mönchengladbach. And when I went back, since I had to go back like twice a year, next time I went back, I went to City Hall. There I met the librarian, who was a wonderful man and who tried to help me. But they only had like 3 little pieces of paper on Joe at the time. Well, I found out, like about his 9 siblings. He was number 2, and Fred was number 5, and they had all the list of names, the father, the mother. And under his name, they had occupation brewer, beer maker. And I thought, beer maker?
Another shock.
So I said, oh my God. So he said, oh, well, we would love it. He says, now we are getting a lot of inquiries about him. And we love it if you would send us material. And I sort of said, well, I'm going to do more than that. And
yeah.
And so we started a competition for the statue and the Prague Institute of Art. I had 2 very helpful disciples, a lady from Prague and a lady, Claudia, the lady who had called to me originally. And we set it up, and then it took till 2011 to convince the county people. They didn't let me put the great big statue I wanted in the park because they said the blind people could trip over it.
Oh, no.
Is that laughable? Okay, so they allowed me to put a plaque in next to the house where he lived. There's an area that is blank. And, well, it's not blank, but it's not used. And a beautiful linden tree. So I placed the plaque in front of the linden tree. And then we had a ceremony. And, of course, all the City Hall people came and claimed fame for Joe. And now when you go to Mönchengladbach, where before nobody knew the name, now they say, oh, yes, we know Jospeh Pilates.
Yes.
And they hold a conference here. There's a lady
who runs
around, and the area, the street where he lived, has been named Pilates Platz.
When did that happen?
That has happened since the last time we went, because since then we've had to cancel because of COVID. So it must have been 2020.
That's wonderful. I bet you didn't expect that.
No, that I didn't expect. And even this year with the COVID, the mayor and I passed the baton to Kathy Corey after several years of organizing it. And Kathy went, and with their masks on and anything, they celebrated at the plaque. But every year when we have the conference, we have it, Kathy put it now every other year. I had it every year. And we do go, the whole group goes to the plaque, and the city people come, the Burgermeister, and
so exciting.
Yes.
It's because of you, Lolita. You made it happen.
Well, yes, that's one of my proudest. I'm most proud of that. One of my great accomplishments. Yes. And then one day, one of my disciples was talking to me, and she said, Lolita, where are his ashes? I said, I don't know.
Oh.
So I said, I didn't think of it. I was out of town when Joe passed. So I didn't find out till a month or so after he was gone. I said, I really don't know. I have asked around, where was he buried or what? I was told he was cremated, but I wasn't told anything else. And so I found out that Joe was a Freemason. He belonged to the Masonic Society.
So was my uncle.
Really? And
That's
my
crazy.
father. And so Joe, when he died, the Freemasons take very good care of each other. And right from the hospital, the body was taken, it was cremated. Then they went to Ferncliff Cemetery in upstate New York, Hartsdale, New York. And the same thing happened when Clara died.
Oh.
But once they pick up the body at the hospital, they're in charge. And, they don't publicize anything of this. So I started speaking to them, and I convinced them to allow me to celebrate every year on Pilates Day. Every other year, so it's Mönchengladbach one year, and then Hartsdale the other. And we go to New York, and we go to see a Broadway show, and then we go on Saturday. We give classes throughout the city for free. And we go to the plaque. And not to the plaque. We go to where his ashes are. They're in two beautiful urns next to each other. And it says Pilates. And it's a gorgeous, beautiful mausoleum, I guess you would call it, a church. But it's all marble and really beautiful. And that's where his ashes rest.
That's another beautiful story that you made happen, Lolita.
Yeah. And I called the PMA and I said, listen, I have found out where Joe's ashes are. I think we should do this. And they said, oh, well, it's November already. We cannot do that in May. We don't have enough time to plan it. I said, all right, you don't want to do it? I'll do it. So we did it and had a great time. And now we've gone there twice more since then.
And so it's called Pilates Day.
Pilates Day was, that name was by the PMA. They selected May, the first weekend of May, Saturday, the first weekend of May. And this was when the PMA first started. So that's been going on for a while.
It's great. It is absolutely keeping him alive. I think he would be over the moon.
We have to.
Yes, we do. We do. Lolita, it's been so wonderful meeting you and listening to some of your story. I applaud you. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you. Thank you, Darian.
How do people get a hold of you?
Oh, easily. I answer the phone myself, as a matter of fact, most of the time. The best way really is via my website.
Which is?
Lolita Pilates at yahoo.com. Doesn't get much easier than that.
And that covers Lolita's legacy and the mentorship program.
The legacy, the PMMP, it covers the boutique, and it covers another program that I have, which is Lolita Pilates Goes Online. And this I started when COVID started, like a week after that March month that we heard really that COVID was that serious. Two of my disciples came to me and said, Lolita, the studio is going to have to close. We've been informed. What do you say we start a program online? I said, I don't know how to turn a computer on, what a program online. And they said, oh, we'll do that. And we'll have you and other teachers. And so we started that, and it's been a very successful program. We're on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We teach at 10 a.m. Live class, which is then repeated in the evening at 7. And we started just with mat. And then we realized that COVID was going to continue. Then we added apparatus, and now we do all, and then on every other, we have a workshop. Today we had Kathy Ross Nash do the workshop with her husband, because Kathy has trained her husband beautifully. And it really all started, I think, with COVID. And we showed it for 2 hours today, the changes that have taken place, the equipment that she has used. She has a manual on it that was her thesis, because Cassie is one of my disciples as well. She took my PMMP program, and you have to write a thesis at the end. She wrote it on her husband, all of the 200 pages.
Oh.
Very thorough. It's a book.
Very thorough. Yes.
And we had a wonderful time today.
Lolita, in closing, for newer teachers out there that feel passionate and they do see the Pilates method in their life, maybe for the rest of their
I hope
lives,
so.
do you have any advice or words of wisdom that you can pass on?
Well, I am 87 years old. I feel very well physically, except for my neck when I slept wrong 2 days ago. And I eat everything. I digest everything. I'm ready to travel anywhere, except my husband won't let me. So if you want to live well, and I guess at this point we don't have much choice of how long we live, but we know we live much longer than we used to. So you want to be healthy while you are enjoying that longevity. And it's a secret, you know that. I mean, I just don't understand why the whole world doesn't do it. And really do it, get into it, train the kids. You know, we would have so much healthier, happier people.
Agreed. And so you are suggesting, or you're asking newer teachers to not just get it into their body, but keep sharing and spreading it out into the world.
Right. If you don't love it, don't teach it.
Oh, I agree.
Take it as a client and enjoy the benefits for yourself. But if you really love it and you know the benefits of it and you can do it, then do teach it. It is a good career and it is very satisfying. But only if you are passionate about it. You know, Joe said you have to practice patience, perseverance, and I add passion. If you don't have that, you don't go anywhere.
That's wonderful. Is that on your website? It's a great tagline. I love it.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's wonderful. Lolita, thank you so much for your time today.
Okay. I enjoyed it, Darian, and thank you for having me.
I continue to ask my students how practicing the Pilates method has helped them in their lives. Carol Biglins, who lives on the Isle of Man, the very island where Joe Pilates was interned during World War I, is very enthusiastic about her practice. Carol says, "The Pilates method helped me recover from injuries that medical doctors weren't able to treat. It keeps my mind and body fully functional and coordinated, empowering me to face life's challenges, as well as helping me enjoy all aspects of life to the full." All Things Pilates is created, edited, produced, and hosted by me, Darian Gold. Mastered audio mix by Fabian Romero. For those of you who may need some extra time refining your Pilates technique, you might consider my apps, both available for iOS and Android, and each app just $3.99. So by giving up one of those special coffee beverages, you can have a lifetime of a personal guide for your Pilates education. If you'd like to learn more about me and traditional Pilates, please visit my website, dariangold.com. And until next time, if someone asked you what your legacy might be, how would you respond? See you in a couple of weeks when I welcome to the show Karen Moran, physical therapist and owner of Fusion Arts Physical Therapy. Thanks again for tuning in to All Things Pilates.